Apprenticeship has been proven to have higher retention rates than other post-secondary education and training models. And not only are you bringing that individual up through the training model, Earn While You Learn, you're also bringing them up in your particular workforce culture.
What happens when hands-on training meets academic rigor? Discover how nursing apprenticeships are reshaping healthcare education. Welcome to the Lippincott Spark, Illuminating Nursing Education podcast. I'm Dr. Kelly Drees. Join us as we ignite your passion for nursing education and leadership. We'll explore the latest trends, hear from expert nurses, and provide tools to keep you inspired. Let's dive into today's episode and continue your professional development journey together. What if you could earn a paycheck while becoming a nurse? Earn While You Learn isn't just a catchy phrase, it's a game changer in nursing education. As hospitals face critical staffing shortages, nursing apprenticeships are stepping up with a powerful solution, blending classroom learning with paid hands-on experience. Today's guest, David Polk, brings a unique perspective. A third-generation plumber turned national apprenticeship leader, David now serves as the Director of Wisconsin Apprenticeship at the Department of Workforce Development and President of the National Association of State and Territorial Apprenticeship Directors. His journey from the trades to shaping workforce policy offers a compelling lens on building careers in vital industries, especially nursing. Welcome, David.
I'm really, really excited for the invite and happy to be here.
I'm excited to learn more about your journey and how it led you to champion apprenticeship programs. Can you share a little bit about your personal journey from plumbing apprentice to your current role leading apprenticeship initiatives, especially in nursing?
Yeah. So as you alluded to in your introduction, I'm a third generation plumber. So even as young as 10 or 11 years old, I was being babysat in the plumbing shop. So I've had a bulk of my life pretty much immersive in the skilled trades. And for me, I also went to a trade and technical high school where I was again fully immersed in that hands-on learning model. And upon completion of my apprenticeship, I stayed in the field for about 5 years. And then I went on to become a plumbing inspector. So I was working for the city and I was inspecting other plumbers' work to ensure that it was up to par. But it was there that I had the ability to go back to school. So I then became a tradesman that also had a bachelor's degree. Part of that lifetime learning moniker that I always tell apprentices to continue to evolve your career through education. So from my lens, there is no battle between academics and the trades. Mm-hmm. They are both working in tandem, which alludes to our conversation today. But having both that bachelor's degree and a trade certification had given me the ability to work at our largest technical college, Milwaukee area technical college, as the associate dean of apprenticeship and trade. From there, I was hired on to lead the state as the director of apprenticeship.
You also had some international experience too, I recall. Didn't you? Germany, was it?
Yeah. Actually been to Germany twice now. And some of the story behind that, Wisconsin way back had a large influx of German migration. And part of that history, Wisconsin was the first state to have any registered apprenticeship legislation in state law. Our registered apprenticeship laws go back to 1911, which precedes the national apprenticeship laws by 25 years. And the national apprenticeship laws were based on what we were doing, but our laws were based on the German migration and their iteration of apprenticeship. So it was really exciting to go to Germany and see some of the parallels that we execute here that they have been executing in Germany for years.
Yeah. I really appreciate your background, having done the job, right, of plumbing and then going back for your bachelor's and building out apprenticeships. I would love to dive into kind of the concept and structure of apprenticeships and specifically nursing. So For those listeners who don't really know what an apprenticeship is, what is a registered apprenticeship and how does it differ from like traditional nursing education pathways? Can you kind of like walk us through how it works and how students might benefit?
Baseline registered apprenticeship is that earn while you learn model. So normally for occupations that don't yet have an apprenticeship, that normal progress is you go to school for a certain amount of years, 1, 2, 4 years. You get a particular certification or a degree, and then you go off and find work in that particular occupation that you went to school for. Registered apprenticeship says, well, why don't we flip that the other way? Why don't we start the individual in that career, but as a novice, and we pair that individual with a mentor that is already skilled in that particular occupation, and we skill that individual up on the job while they're being paid to learn and go from unskilled to skilled. And not only that, while they're learning under a mentor, we're also going to require a certain amount of schooling so that they have the theory behind the occupation as to why they're doing what they're doing. And the reason that this creates such synergy is because you're sitting in a classroom and you're learning, and then you're immediately implementing what you're learning in the classroom under a mentor that is guiding you as to how to do this correctly based upon the theory that you're learning in the classroom.
Yeah, that practical application, right? Right away.
Immediately.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Immediately. So you're not waiting 2 to 4 years to start applying what you're learning. You're applying this immediately. And because you're working for employers that embark upon the apprenticeship journey, it widens the swath of recruitment, right? So now you're not recruiting from this small canister of individuals that are already certified. You're recruiting from a swath of individuals that would like to learn, that are willing learners, that will come every day with their minds open to learn. And that swath of individuals is much wider than individuals that are already certified. We're taking the normal model and flipping it a bit so you can earn while you learn. You're getting a full paycheck, and you're getting the schooling and certifications required for that particular occupation.
That brings us to the impact of how a nursing apprenticeship can really have a positive impact on students, not only students, but healthcare system. And I look at how do nursing apprenticeships support those students who are balancing work and school and family and all those responsibilities? Because we know the traditional nursing program, you go to school and they say, don't work more than X amount of hours because it's hard to balance. This is a game changer. This is different. Like you said, they're getting paid for this and earning while they're learning.
Again, when you're able to widen that swath, and you have individuals that they're coming in with an assortment of social ills that would normally prevent them from being a full-time student and working part-time and then handling anything in their home that they would have to handle. Well, now you're working full-time and getting a paycheck. So some of those ills are now off the table. You're not wondering if you have enough money to put food in the refrigerator because you're a full-time employee. And in Wisconsin, probably about 90% of our apprenticeship sponsors, they'll pay for the academic part of your apprenticeship.
So they're earning money, they're getting the experience, they're getting their schooling paid for. It's like a win-win. Like you said, you take all of those multi-dimensional variables, all of those non-academic variables kind of off the table because they're bringing in the money and getting that experience at the same time. That's awesome. That's awesome.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's a wonderful investment for the employer. Apprenticeship has been proven to have higher retention rates than other post-secondary education and training models. And not only are you bringing that individual up through the training model, earn while you learn, you're also bringing them up in your particular workforce culture. And that's one thing that, sometimes the alternative, there are struggles when you bring in someone who's already certified and then they have to learn your particular workforce culture. An apprentice is learning that workforce culture while they're getting their certifications, while they're earning and learning on the job. And that promotes the retention of the employees, which clinics and hospitals across the nation are struggling with retention of nurses.
Sure, sure. Yeah, that was going to be my next question. How do hospitals and nursing schools really collaborate to ensure apprenticeships meet those workforce needs? And I, especially in rural or underserved areas. So you're seeing that, right? That they are really collaborating together to meet those workforce needs.
Yeah, so the hospitals and clinics are now partnering so that they can put together full cohorts of nursing apprentices. And what that does is that drives the price down per apprentice when they're able to collaborate and say, hey, the David Polk Clinic and the Dr. Dries Clinic, we're gonna collaborate, and we're gonna put in 6 apprentices a piece, and we're going to split the costs for our own cohort so that they can learn on these days at this time. And it's starting to create a very synergistic way of propping up the nursing workforce when they decide to collaborate, because we've moved past them competing with each other for a workforce, because the nursing workforce is so dire. They have to work together. And now they're starting to work together and synergize around driving the cost down for the education and building in more services to help prop up the apprentices to ensure that they complete.
Yeah. So do you see these students coming to the clinics and hospitals and saying, hey, I heard you have a apprenticeship program with XYZ school, or are the students going right to the school and saying, I heard, or is it both?
It's both and. So in the apprenticeship world, a lot of times the apprentices are incumbent employees, because up front, the employers they're making an investment
Yeah.
in this person. You're paying them as a full-time employee, and then you're paying for their education, and you're paying them while they go to school. That's a pretty broad investment. So employers want to know that the person that they're investing in are invested in this process. One of our signature hospitals here in Wisconsin that has been doing amazing work with the apprenticeship process and piloting new apprenticeships. They piloted back in 2018 the medical assistant
Oh, sure.
registered apprenticeship. They're using that apprenticeship to move individuals throughout their processes, throughout their workforce processes, into other roles. So what you'll see is an individual that completed a medical assistant apprenticeship now going through a registered nurse apprenticeship. And they're using it as career ladder building. And that's not, uncommon in the world of apprenticeship, especially now when not only is it dire for the nursing workforce, it's just tough to get skilled individuals, period. So using apprenticeship as a career ladder is a wonderful strategy to build your workforce.
Yeah. I love that. I love that. So, as we look at the broader landscape and future of nursing apprenticeships, what does the state of nursing apprenticeships look like in the country? Are there any success stories or standout programs besides the one you mentioned in Wisconsin, of course? Are there success stories that you've heard around the country? Is this getting some traction?
Yeah, it certainly is. And clinics are using that career laddering model. I was talking with the director from Alabama. They have a wonderful LPN model that then ladders into registered nursing apprenticeship. So I think in healthcare overarchingly, that career laddering model is one that is transferring all across the country, and not only using, other apprenticeships, using nursing apprenticeships as the career ladder into the registered nursing apprenticeship, which provides, of course, credit as you kind of move up in that specific nursing career ladder, but gets them experience that an individual that just goes to school and then, goes in, they may not get that very contextual experience. So there is a lot of career laddering. And one thing that I've noticed as now we've been building more and more healthcare apprenticeships, the healthcare and the nursing workforce have long been doing or implementing some of the pure tenets of apprenticeship in their training model. So it has not been a large stretch once we build the model from what they were doing. It's not a huge 180. There were some pure tenets of what we do in apprenticeship in the training model for nurses. For us, we kind of contextualize it with that mentoring and then build in the process of earning while you're learning for the duration of the training. But in healthcare, it's not an absurd stretch to implement apprenticeship practice into what has been happening in healthcare for a very, very long time.
Yeah, yeah. So for nursing programs interested in starting an apprenticeship, what steps would they take? And then I'll follow up with, what role can policymakers and educators play in supporting the efforts? Because we have listeners from across the country and even across the world listening to this podcast. So where do they even begin? How do they start if they're interested? Does my state have this?
So if you're an employer, definitely reach to your state. In Wisconsin, we have our state apprenticeship agency, which I am the lead. There are some states that don't have a state apprenticeship agency. So their direct connection for those employers would be talking to their DOL or Office of Apprenticeship representative in those respective states. But for those that have a state apprenticeship agency, reach directly out to that agency. And just like Wisconsin has ATRs, apprenticeship training representatives, states have their own apprenticeship training representatives. And I'm sure they will hop on a phone call, hop in a video meeting to set that employer up with the model. And, this is the model, this is what you have to do, and sign you up to be apprenticeship sponsors. When we talk about the politics, I would definitely say on both sides, supporting employers that want to make that investment in apprenticeship. I think it's a win-win for everyone, but also building in those supports for apprentices, because as you and I spoke to earlier, there are still some social ills that can affect the progress of an apprentice completing. And those ills could be something as little as my babysitter or my daycare closed this week. I don't have anyone to take care of my child. My car broke down and it's $2,000 to get repaired. I don't have a mode of transportation now. As a former apprentice myself, I hate for things like that to take one off the course of completion when it has nothing to do with their progress or learning or being embedded in the culture of the work. It has nothing to do with that. It's just purely a social ill. So I think building in those safeguards to ensure that individuals complete their apprenticeship, those two things would help to spur more investing in nursing and healthcare apprenticeships.
Yeah. When I think of schools of nursing, you have your deans, directors, program chairs who are looking for ways to promote student success, and having apprenticeships as one of those ways, an option for students, and partnering with healthcare agencies to build one, right? You and I have talked in the past about the ability to work with your advisory committees.
Yeah.
How do you go about that? Because a dean of nursing might think, this might be a good idea. Have you seen advisory committees? Is that a way where that school of nursing can kind of make that inroad to start those conversations with their healthcare providers?
Yeah, most certainly. Employers are the backbone of registered apprenticeship. And for those deans of schools and in schools in general, I think we have to open the conversation of being creative in how we execute our programs. There are times, the workforce is in dire need of this, right? Mm-hmm. So we can't go about what we've been doing for the past 50, 100 years because we're facing something that we've never faced before. for those schools, you have to be creative in the execution. If employers are willing to pay for apprentices to work, pay their tuition, pay for them to come to school and their tuition at the same time, we have to be creative in the execution in order to get out of this hole that we're in the dire need for nurses. That need, if we're being transparent, it's not going to go away anytime soon.
Sure.
We still have a situation where nurses are, leaving their respective states or leaving the industry, or more nurses are either leaving the industry or retiring than are coming into the industry. There's an assortment of reasons. Burnout. I think, a lot was exacerbated over the past 5 years, especially when we'd hit COVID. And then, we still have a large swath of Americans that are retiring and getting into that retirement age where you need a nursing workforce more than ever. So those ills that are affecting the nursing workforce are not going to go away anytime soon. So we have to be creative in how we cure that particular ill.
One of the things that I think bring, and I could be bold enough to say, bring us both great joy is seeing those students walk across the stage, or seeing those students, graduate from an apprenticeship and know how hard they've worked. They've dug in, they've climbed up that hill, and they've persevered. So do you have any stories about some success stories that you've seen these students really dig in and have that grit and move through that apprenticeship? Because that just gives you all the feels, right?
When I was at the technical colleges, I always had a very specific open door policy for apprentices. So I know in your background, you've had students, just come to your office crying. They're facing something, whether it be at home or at school, or they need this. And they just come in your office crying and just need help. And to see them on that day, and the smiles and the tears, and their families are just so very, very proud of them. I always, when I go out and speak with the secretary, I always say, there are two parts of this job that keep me coming back that I absolutely love. One of them is watching apprentices on signing day, where they're signing that contract with their employer and they're so excited to start day one as an apprentice, and then watching those apprentices complete after they've traversed the peaks and valleys of working and earning while they're learning. It makes me so proud. One of the most recent signing days, a young lady, she was part of the first cohort in our state of medical assistant apprentices. And she completed that apprenticeship. And now she's starting as a sterilization technologist apprentice. So using that career ladder, it made me so really, really proud. And it said, hey, this is the model. This is what the model is supposed to do. Afford someone a living wage and a career ladder to go the places that they so desire, without the burdens of having to only work part-time while they go through their schooling. That made me really, really proud. And I was hoping that story made believers in the apprenticeship process.
Yeah, a proud moment for sure. So, David, what would be one spark or pearl of wisdom or inspirational message that you'd like to leave with our listeners today?
For the nursing industry, apprenticeship is no different than your normal training models. We just afford individuals to be able to work full time. They still get the same certifications and degrees as any other nurse, and they actually complete their certifications with a little more hands-on experience than the normal process. So I say, in this crisis that we're having with our nursing workforce, let's work together and be creative. All of us one day, we're going to need a nurse. We're going to need that well-trained nurse that is going to be helping us to either remain healthy or get back healthy, depending on our individual circumstances. So let's work together and support this very particular workforce that we're all going to have to engage with one day.
Thanks again, David. I really appreciate you sharing your journey and your insights. Today's episode really put a spotlight on nursing apprenticeships as a powerful bridge between education and employment, especially in those communities that need it the most. These programs offer students a chance to earn while they learn, gain real-world experience, and step confidently into their nursing career. Thank you so much, David.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you for joining the Lippincott Spark Illuminating Nursing Education podcast. Enjoy this episode, subscribe, share, and leave us a 5-star review. For more information, click on the link below to learn more about Lippincott Nursing products and services. Until next time, keep leading, learning, and making a difference in nursing education.